He was the billionaire's only son, born paralyzed and locked away from the world since the day he opened his eyes. Everyone said he'd never walk, never speak, never feel what life really is. But everything changed the day a poor little girl stepped into his mansion and uncovered a secret his father would do anything to hide. Because sometimes the truth doesn't heal, it destroys. Before the story begins, tell me in the comments, where are you watching from? I love seeing people from all around the world join these stories. The mansion on the hill was a world of glass and silence. Behind those tall iron gates lived Ethan Voss, the only heir of billionaire Richard Voss, a boy the world pitied but never truly saw. Born paralyzed from the waist down, Ethan spent his entire life inside those polished walls, confined to a wheelchair, surrounded by nurses, tutors, and machines that hummed quietly like secrets no one dared to speak. His father called it protection. Ethan called it a cage. Every morning he'd stare through the window at the gardens below, watching the gardeners laugh and move freely. His hands clenched against the metal arms of his chair as he whispered to himself, "Just one day. I wish I could walk for just one day." Down in the city, miles away from that mansion, a girl named Mia ran between market stalls with a basket in her hand. She was small, fast, and full of life, her clothes worn but her smile bright. She sold flowers for a living, the kind that grew wild near the train tracks. Her dream was simple, to save enough money to study medicine one day. "You think too big for someone like us," her friend would tease. But Mia would always reply, "Dreams don't cost anything. Giving up does." That afternoon, she was delivering flowers to a hospital when she noticed a car outside unlike any she'd ever seen. A sleek black limousine with tinted windows. From inside, a voice called, "Miss, over here." A tall man in a suit stood by the door holding an envelope. "We need someone to bring fresh flowers daily to the Voss mansion," he said. "Are you interested?" Mia's eyes widened. "The Voss mansion, as in Richard Voss, the billionaire?" The man nodded. "Yes, his son likes flowers. He hasn't left his room in years." She hesitated. "Why me?" "You came recommended," he said with a small smile. "From the hospital staff. They said you're kind." And just like that, Mia found herself stepping through the mansion gates the next morning, holding a basket of lilies. The guards stared as if they'd never seen someone like her before, someone poor, someone ordinary. Inside, the marble floors gleamed so brightly they reflected her face. "This way," the butler said. "He doesn't like to be disturbed. Just place the flowers by the piano." Mia nodded and entered the grand room. It was vast, quiet, and cold. At the far end, by the window, sat Ethan. His eyes were sharp blue, his hands resting on the wheels of his chair. He looked up when he heard her steps. "I just brought flowers." "Why?" he asked bluntly. "Because they make people happy," she said. "Do they make you happy?" "No," he replied after a pause. "They just die slowly," she smiled faintly. "Maybe, but while they're alive, they make the room brighter." He looked at her then, really looked, as if no one had ever dared to speak to him like that. "What's your name?" "Mia," she said. "Do you always talk this much, Mia?" "Only when someone listens," she replied. For the first time in years, Ethan smiled, a small, hesitant curve of the lips that surprised even him. When Mia left, the butler noticed it too. "He smiled," the old man whispered to himself. That night, Ethan didn't sleep. He kept replaying her words, her courage, her warmth. For someone who had everything, he'd never met anyone who made him feel human. But what Ethan didn't know was that Mia's arrival wasn't coincidence. Someone wanted her there. Someone who knew that buried inside that mansion was a truth that could shatter everything. The truth about why Ethan could never walk. The next morning, Mia arrived at the Voss mansion again, the early sun catching the dew on the garden roses. She walked up the marble steps, clutching a small bouquet of white tulips. As she entered the grand hall, she saw Ethan waiting by the window, his wheelchair turned toward the light. "You came back," he said quietly, almost surprised. Mia smiled. "You think I'd run away after one day?" "Most people do," Ethan replied. "They can't stand the silence? Here. Then I guess I'm not like most people," she said. He studied her for a moment before asking, "Why do you bring flowers? You could sell them for money. You don't look like someone who can afford to waste things." Mia's expression softened. "Because some things aren't wasted when they make someone else smile." Ethan didn't answer. Instead, he gestured to the piano in the corner. "Do you play?" She shook her head. "No, my mom used to, before she died." There was a long pause. "I'm sorry," Ethan said, his tone genuine. "It's okay," Mia whispered. "She used to tell me music heals even when medicine can't. Maybe that's why I love bringing flowers. They remind me of her." For a moment, the room didn't feel so cold. That afternoon, Mia placed the tulips by the piano and turned to leave, but Ethan stopped her. "Wait," he said. "Stay a while." She blinked. "Why?" "Because no one ever does," he admitted. So she sat by the piano, talking about her life in the city, the people she met, and the little miracles she saw every day, like a stray cat, giving birth in her alley, or an old woman who fed pigeons with crumbs she couldn't afford. Ethan listened, captivated. The longer she spoke, the more he felt something he hadn't felt in years: life. But behind the door, someone else was listening too. Mr. Reed, Ethan's father, stood silently, his expression unreadable. Later that evening, he called his assistant into the study. "The flower girl," he said coldly. "Find out who she is, everything." "Sir, she seems harmless," the assistant replied. "Nothing is harmless when it's unexpected," Mr. Reed said. "My son is fragile. I won't let some street girl fill his head with dreams." The next day, Mia came again, but the guard at the gate stopped her. "Mr. Voss said you're not allowed in." Her heart sank. "Why? Did I do something wrong?" "No idea," the guard said. "Orders from the top." Disappointed, she turned to leave until she heard a voice behind her. "Let her in." It was Ethan. His tone was firm, his eyes blazing with quiet rebellion. "She's my guest." The guard hesitated, then nodded. When Mia entered, Ethan smiled faintly. "My father thinks you're a distraction." "Am I?" she asked. He shook his head. "You're the first person who doesn't treat me like I'm broken." Mia stepped closer. "You're not broken, Ethan. You're just waiting to be healed." "Doctors tried," he said bitterly. "Nothing worked." She hesitated. "Maybe they were healing the wrong thing." "What do you mean?" "Maybe the part that's paralyzed isn't your body. Maybe it's your heart." For a moment, neither spoke. Then Ethan said softly, "You talk like you know pain." Mia looked down. "I do." "Tell me," he said gently. "Maybe one day," she replied. When she left that day, Ethan wheeled himself to the window, watching her go. His heart was heavy, but for the first time in years, it beat with something more than loneliness. It beat with hope. Yet deep inside the mansion, a storm was brewing. Mr. Voss had discovered something in her file, something that made his blood run cold. Mia wasn't just any poor girl. She had a past tied to the Voss family in ways Ethan could never imagine, a secret buried for years, waiting to destroy the illusion of their perfect world. That night, the mansion felt different. Ethan could sense it, the tension, the silence heavier than usual. When he wheeled down the corridor, he saw two maids whispering, their faces pale. "What's going on?" he asked. They froze, eyes darting away. "Nothing, sir," one mumbled before hurrying off. Ethan frowned. Nothing was ever nothing in this house. He rolled toward his father's study, the door slightly ajar, voices echoing inside. "You don't understand," Mr. Voss said sharply. If she stays near him, it could ruin everything. Sir, the assistant replied cautiously, she's just a girl. No, she's her daughter, Mr. Voss snapped. I buried that mistake years ago. Ethan's chest tightened. Her daughter? He leaned closer, trying to hear more. But the assistant noticed movement and rushed to shut the door. Ethan's heart raced. He turned his wheelchair around, confusion flooding his mind. Who was Mia, really? The next morning she returned again, smiling as always, holding a basket of fresh flowers. Ethan greeted her, but his usual warmth was replaced by unease. Mia, he began, can I ask you something? She tilted her head. Sure. Do you know my family? She blinked. I mean, other than meeting us now, she laughed lightly. No. Why? No reason, he lied. But her eyes flickered just for a second with something, sadness, guilt. Before he could ask more, the butler entered the room. Mr. Voss wants to see you, he told Mia. Her face went pale. Me? Yes, in his study. Ethan frowned. You don't have to go if you don't want to. It's fine, she whispered, forcing a smile. I'll be right back. When Mia entered the study, Mr. Voss was already waiting behind his massive oak desk. Sit, he ordered. She obeyed quietly. Do you know who I am? You're Ethan's father, she said softly. That's not all, he replied coldly. You're also the daughter of the woman who nearly destroyed this family. Mia's throat tightened. You knew my mother. Knew her? He scoffed. She was my wife's nurse. A liar, a manipulator. She took something that didn't belong to her, and when I tried to make it right, she disappeared with you. Mia's eyes glistened. You're wrong, she said quietly. She wasn't a thief. She was trying to save me. Save you? He stood, his voice rising. She stole from me, my trust, my peace, and now you come back here, pretending to care about my son? Tears welled up, but Mia didn't back down. I didn't come here pretending. I came because I wanted to help him. You'll stay away from Ethan, Mr. Voss warned. If you care about him at all, you'll leave and never come back. I can't, she whispered. He needs me. He doesn't even know who you are. Then tell him, she challenged. Tell him what you did. Tell him why he's really in that chair. Mr. Voss froze. What did you just say? You heard me, she said, standing now, trembling but brave. You think my mother didn't tell me? You think I don't know that the accident that paralyzed Ethan wasn't an accident at all? Mr. Voss's face turned pale. Careful, girl. The truth always comes out, she whispered. You can't hide it forever. She turned to leave, her voice breaking. You may hate my mother, but she wasn't the villain. She was the one who tried to save him. When she walked out, Ethan was waiting at the end of the hallway. His eyes searched hers. What did he say? Mia forced a shaky smile. Nothing important. But inside her heart was shattering. Because the truth she'd just revealed could destroy the only person she ever wanted to protect that night. Ethan couldn't sleep. His father's words, Mia's trembling voice, the strange tension in the house. It all swirled in his head. Like a storm he couldn't escape. He kept replaying the memory of the car crash, the screeching tires, his mother's scream, then the endless silence that followed. He'd always been told it was an accident. But what if it wasn't? The next morning, Mia didn't come. For the first time in weeks, Ethan sat alone in the garden, staring at the flowers she had planted. The nurse came to check on him, but he brushed her off. Hours passed. Finally, he called the butler. Where's Mia? The man hesitated. Sir, she's no longer with us. What do you mean, no longer with us? Ethan demanded. Your father dismissed her. Ethan's heart sank. When? Last night. Without another word, Ethan wheeled himself toward his father's office, his pulse pounding. He didn't even knock. Why did you fire her? He shouted. Mr. Voss looked up calmly from his desk. Because she doesn't belong here. You don't get to decide that. I do when it concerns my family, his father snapped. She's the daughter of a liar who what? Save me? Ethan interrupted. She told me about the accident. She said you're hiding something. Mr. Voss's face turned cold. You don't know what you're talking about. Then tell me, Ethan shouted, tears brimming. Tell me why you can't stand her. Tell me why you're so afraid of the truth. His father slammed his hand on the desk. Enough, you want the truth? Fine. You were never supposed to be in that car. It was her mother who caused the crash. She ran us off the road trying to stop me from leaving with your mother. You should be thanking me you're even alive. Ethan stared at him, speechless. You're lying, he whispered. Am I? Mr. Voss's voice softened but stayed cold. You were a child. You remember nothing. Her mother disappeared that same night, and now her daughter shows up, pretending to care. It's no coincidence, Ethan. Ethan's hands trembled. Mia wouldn't hurt me. She already did, his father said. You just don't see it yet. Ethan backed away, his mind spinning. He didn't want to believe his father. But doubt was a seed that had already been planted. Later that day, he found a note on his windowsill, folded neatly, written in familiar handwriting. Ethan, I didn't want to leave like this. Your father doesn't want you to know the truth, but you deserve it. Come to the old lake house, the place where it all began. I'll be waiting. He hesitated, staring at the words. His heart pounded with fear and hope. That night, after everyone had gone to sleep, he wheeled himself out of the mansion quietly. The moon was full, lighting his path through the long driveway. The air was cold, and every sound seemed louder than usual. When he reached the lake house, the door creaked open before he could knock. Mia stood there, eyes red from crying. You came, she whispered. Of course I did, he said. Tell me everything. She nodded, her hands trembling. Your father isn't who you think he is. Ethan. The accident that took your mother and left you in that chair, it wasn't my mom's fault. It was his. He was drunk that night. My mother tried to stop him from driving, but he forced her out of the car. When she came back, the crash had already happened. Ethan's breath caught. No. She tried to call for help, but he blamed her. She ran because he threatened her life. Tears filled Mia's eyes. My mom kept that secret to protect me, but I can't stay silent anymore. You deserve to know what really happened. Ethan stared at her, unable to speak. The world he thought he knew was falling apart, piece by piece. And for the first time in his life, he didn't know who to believe, the father who raised him, or the girl who had risked everything to save him. Ethan sat there in silence, staring at the dark lake shimmering under the moonlight. Mia's words echoed in his mind like a haunting melody he couldn't turn off. He was drunk that night. His father's stern voice, the way he avoided the topic of the accident for years, it all started to make sense now. Do you have proof? Ethan finally asked, his voice shaking. Mia reached into her small bag and pulled out a folded paper. My mother wrote this before she disappeared. She left it hidden in an old music box. I only found it after she passed away. Ethan unfolded the letter, his eyes scanning the faded ink. It was dated the same night as the crash. If anyone finds this, please tell the truth. He was drunk. I tried to stop him, but he wouldn't listen. The child didn't deserve this. Ethan's chest tightened, his vision blurred with tears. She tried to save us, he whispered. Mia nodded slowly. I never wanted to hurt you, Ethan. I just wanted you to know what really happened. You deserve that much. Ethan looked up at her, the weight of years of lies crashing over him. He told me she caused the accident. He made me hate someone who was innocent. That's what guilt does, Mia said softly. It makes people rewrite the story to live with themselves. Suddenly, a car's headlights flashed through the trees. Ethan turned, fear gripping his chest. "He's here," he whispered. The car door slammed, and his father's voice thundered, "Ethan! Step away from her!" Mr. Voss stormed toward them, his face red with rage. "I told you to stay away from my son." Mia stood her ground. "You can't hide the truth anymore, sir. I have your wife's necklace, the one she was wearing that night. My mother found it near the lake after the crash." Ethan's father froze. His eyes widened, the color draining from his face. "That's impossible." "No, it's not," Mia said firmly. "You left it there when you dragged her body out of the car before calling the police." Ethan's voice trembled. "Dad, is that true?" Mr. Voss's hands shook. He looked at his son, then at the ground. "I didn't mean for it to happen. It was an accident. I was angry. Your mother wanted to leave me, and I couldn't lose her." "So you lied," Ethan whispered, tears streaming down his face. "You lied to me my whole life." Mr. Voss fell to his knees, broken. "I just wanted to protect you." "Son, you didn't protect me," Ethan said quietly. "You destroyed me." He turned to Mia, who was crying silently. "You were the only one who told me the truth." The police arrived soon after. Called by Mia before she came, Mr. Voss didn't resist as they took him away. Ethan watched as the man he'd admired. All his life disappeared into the flashing lights. Days later, Ethan returned. To the lake house with Mia, the truth had freed him in a way he never thought possible. For the first time, he didn't feel weak. He felt alive. "I don't know how to thank you," he said. Mia smiled gently. "You already did. You believed me." As the sun rose over the water, Ethan stood up from his wheelchair, slowly, shakily, but on his own. Tears filled Mia's eyes as she rushed to his side. "Ethan, you're walking!" He smiled through his tears. "Maybe it's because I finally let go of the pain." In that quiet moment by the lake, the boy who once thought he'd never walk again took his first steps. Not just on his legs, but into a new life. And beside him stood the girl who gave him back his strength, his truth, and his heart. Weeks passed since that morning at the lake. But Ethan couldn't stop replaying it in his mind, the way the sunlight hit the water, the way his legs trembled but held him up for the first time. Every step since then felt like a miracle. Mia visited him often, usually bringing food from her bakery, job, and that same quiet strength that made him believe anything was possible. She never treated him like a billionaire's son or a broken man. She treated him like Ethan, the person he was beneath the money, pain, and lies. "You've changed," she told him one afternoon as they sat under the oak tree near the hospital garden. "You used to look at the world like it owed you something. Now you look like someone who wants to give something back." Ethan smiled faintly. "Maybe I finally realized what's worth keeping." "And what's that?" she asked. "People like you," he said softly. Her cheeks flushed, and for a moment the world seemed still. But reality crept in soon after. The press had exploded with headlines. "Business tycoon arrested for cover-up." "Reed Corporation scandal, son breaks." Silence. Ethan's phone wouldn't stop buzzing, but he ignored every call. His father's company wanted him to issue statements. Legal teams wanted interviews, and investors wanted reassurance. But all he wanted was peace. "You don't owe them anything," Mia told him. "You've done enough." "Maybe," Ethan replied, looking down at his hands. "But my father's mistakes don't have to define our family name forever." Mia reached over, placing her hand on his. "Then write a new story." The next morning, he did just that. Ethan held a press conference, not in a fancy ballroom or office tower, but at the community center near the old neighborhood where his mother used to volunteer. Cameras flashed as he stepped up to the microphone, walking slowly but confidently. "My name is Ethan Voss," he began, his voice steady. "For years, my family built a fortune while hiding a tragedy. My father's choices destroyed lives, including my mother's. I can't change the past, but I can change what comes next." He paused, meeting the eyes of the reporters. "Reed Foundation will now fund medical care and scholarships for families who've suffered from corporate negligence and cover-ups. This is not redemption, it's responsibility." The room fell silent before applause slowly grew. Mia watched from the back, her eyes glistening with pride. When it was over, Ethan found her outside by the fountain. "So," she teased, "you finally used your voice for something good." He chuckled. "You inspired me to." "Me?" she asked, laughing. "I'm just a poor girl who bakes bread." "You're the reason I can walk again." "Mia, you're the reason I can live again." "That's not just anyone." Her smile faded as she looked down. "I didn't do it for anything in return." "I know," Ethan said, stepping closer. "That's what makes you different." They stood there for a long moment, the hum of the city blending with the sound of the fountain. Then Ethan reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a small envelope. "What's this?" she asked. "A lease," he said. "For the new bakery I bought you, downtown. Fully paid for. Under your name." Mia's eyes widened. "Ethan, I can't accept that!" "You can," he said gently. "And you will. Because I owe you more than money. You gave me back my life." Tears filled her eyes as she hugged him tightly. "Thank you," she whispered. "No," he said softly, his voice breaking. "Thank you." As the sun dipped behind the skyline, Ethan realized something he'd never known before. Wealth wasn't measured in money, but in moments like these, where two broken souls found healing in each other. He had spent years searching for a cure for his body, but it was Mia who cured his heart. Months rolled by and life began to settle into something almost normal. Mia's bakery, Sweet Beginnings, became the heart of the neighborhood. The smell of freshly baked bread filled the streets every morning, and locals lined up not just for pastries but for the warmth she carried. Sometimes Ethan helped behind the counter, his sleeves rolled up, laughing awkwardly when customers recognized him as that billionaire's son who walked again. He didn't care about the whispers anymore. He found peace in the simplicity of kneading dough beside her, in the way she smiled when flour dusted his nose, in the quiet moments where their hands brushed and neither pulled away. "You're really bad at baking," Mia teased one day, watching him ruin yet another batch of croissants. "You're really bad at pretending you don't like having me here," he shot back. She laughed, shaking her head. But there was something tender in her gaze that said more than words could. Still, not everything was peaceful. One evening, as they were closing the bakery, a black car stopped outside. A man in a gray suit stepped out, Ethan's father's former lawyer. "Mr. Voss," he greeted, his tone formal. "Your father requests a meeting." Ethan's jaw tightened. "Tell him I'm not interested." "He insists," the man replied. "He's not well. He said it's urgent." Mia glanced at him, worry flickering in her eyes. "Maybe you should go," she whispered. Ethan sighed. "He's the reason I was broken for years. Mia, he used people, lied to everyone, including me. And maybe now he needs you to forgive him," she said softly. The next morning, Ethan drove to the old mansion, the same one that once symbolized everything he hated. Inside, the air was cold, heavy with memories. His father sat by the window, frail, eyes hollow but still sharp. "You came," Mr. Voss said quietly. "Didn't think you would." "You said it was urgent," Ethan replied flatly. "What do you want?" The old man smiled bitterly. "Just a chance to say I was wrong. About you. About everything." Ethan hesitated. He had imagined this moment 1,000 times, each one ending in anger, but now he only felt tired. "You ruined so many lives, Father," he said softly, "including mine." "I know," the man admitted. And I can't undo it. But I watched your press conference. You did what I never could. You made our name mean something again. He coughed, his voice trembling. The doctors say I don't have long. But before I go, I needed to tell you, I'm proud of you. Ethan froze. The words didn't heal the scars, but they settled something deep inside him. He nodded slowly. Thank you. As he turned to leave, his father added weakly, That girl, Mia, don't lose her. She's your real inheritance. Ethan looked back one last time, then walked away without hate for the first time in his life. When he returned to the bakery, Mia was waiting outside, flour still on her hands. How was it? She asked softly. Hard, he said. But I think I finally said goodbye. She smiled gently. Then maybe now you can really start living. Ethan reached for her hand, holding it tight. Only if it's with you. The streetlights flickered on, casting a warm glow over them. For the first time in years, Ethan didn't feel trapped between the weight of his past and the fear of his future. With Mia beside him, he felt free, completely, utterly free. Weeks later, Ethan stood in front of the grand stage at the city's charity gala, the same event his father once hosted to impress the elite. But this time it wasn't about money or power. It was about giving back, about healing. Mia stood backstage, her hands clasped nervously as she watched him adjust the microphone. Thank you all for coming, Ethan began, his voice steady but emotional. A few years ago, I couldn't even stand here. Literally. I was told I'd never walk again. I believed my life was over, but then someone refused to believe that. He paused, his gaze finding Mia's face among the crowd. She gave me more than a second chance. She gave me purpose. The audience was silent, listening to every word. Tonight, I'm proud to announce the Mia Foundation, dedicated to funding life-saving surgeries for children who can't afford them, so no one else has to choose between pain and hope. The room erupted in applause. Mia's eyes filled with tears as she realized he named it after her. After the gala, reporters swarmed them, but Ethan only cared about one thing, walking to her side. You did that, he said softly. You changed everything. She shook her head. No, we did. A few months later, their lives became beautifully ordinary again. The bakery expanded, but Mia never lost her touch with people. She remembered every customer's name, every story. Ethan split his time between the foundation and the bakery, finding balance in both worlds. The one he was born into and the one he built from kindness. One rainy evening, as they were closing shop, a little boy came in, drenched and shivering. Miss Mia, he stammered, holding out a crumpled letter. My mom said to give you this. She opened it, reading through blurred ink. Thank you note from a woman whose child had received a surgery funded by the Mia Foundation. He can walk now, the note said. Because of you. Mia's voice cracked as she whispered. He can walk. Ethan wrapped his arms around her from behind. That's your gift, he said. You gave the world something no money could ever buy. Hope. She turned to face him, smiling through tears. And you gave me something I never thought I'd have. Family. Outside, the rain eased into a soft drizzle. Ethan took her hand, leading her to the door. Do you ever think about how different life could have been if you hadn't found me that day? He asked. Every day, she replied. And every time I do, I thank God that I did. He leaned in, his forehead against hers. Then let's never stop being grateful. As they locked up the bakery and walked hand in, hand down the glistening street, a new dawn began to break through the clouds. The once paralyzed billionaire had found his freedom, not in wealth, but in love. And the poor little girl who once thought she had nothing had unknowingly healed more hearts than she ever imagined, simply by being brave enough to care.